Okay, so welcome to the channel, everybody. My name's Andy Rawls. If you are fairly new to the channel, I have a separate, it was actually a separate channel I started last year, beginning of last year, called Have It Made with my brother-in-law, Wes Vita, where we documented other talented craftspeople. It's kind of my goal to use the audience I'd built to give other craftspeople exposure. That channel did fairly well, but we weren't able to create the content frequent enough. So we were getting a video up every couple months, which just isn't enough to justify its own channel. So we made the decision end of last year to bring that footage over into my channel, try to keep shooting new videos, which we've done a little bit, and repost all those from the old channel onto my channel. And that's what this is. So a lot of you already know this, and you may have already seen the video, but this is one of my favorite videos we did. Weldon is a very talented craftsman that I've gotten the opportunity and grateful to get to personally know over the years, a friend of mine. So in this video, you're going to see Weldon in his engraving. Now, Weldon comes from a musical family. His dad was Big Bill Lister, who played with Hank Williams back in the day, and his dad taught him how to engrave. And so you'll also see Billy, Weldon's son. You get these full run of generations, which I think is a really cool thing about the video, taking the music on. So you hear them playing Tear in My Beer in this video, and that song was actually written, I don't know if I have the story right, but I think Hank Williams wrote it for Big Bill, and Big Bill never released it, and then they found it years later in Big Bill's attic, and then Hank Williams Jr. wrote the song, released it I think in the 70s or 80s, and it became a huge hit. So that's a little backstory to that. Let's just jump right into this and learn more about Weldon and Billy. So without further ado, here's the video.
I look at my work and say, is this the best I can do? And if not, then why not? And if not, then what do I need to do to make it better? And I think it's a good thing that we can measure our life with. Am I doing well? If not, how can I make it better? My dad became fascinated with guns when he was a little boy. This would have been back in the 30s. His family lived in Junction, and there were some retired Texas Rangers that would come around the shop where my grandpa worked. And they had these fancy engraved Colt single actions. And as a little boy, my dad got to see them. And he became intrigued with those, and he always wanted to know how to make a gun look pretty like that. And so fast forwarding a little bit into the 60s, Dad met an old German man who told him, no, don't try to push that with a burin. You use a hammer and a chisel. You use that hammer to drive that chisel through the steel. And so that was sort of an epiphany for Dad. He's like, well, why didn't I think of that? So I was a kid running around in the shop seeing these guys you know, using a hammer and chisel to create beautiful guns. And so it was just normal to me. You know, kind of whatever your dad does is perceived as normal to a kid. And I didn't think of it being any different, really. So going a little forward in time, I mean, I was around it from that point. And when I was 17, I asked my dad if he would teach me how to do engraving. And what he said was very profound. He said, I will show you everything I know. What you pick up will be up to you. And I said, okay, when do we start? So we started in August of 1979. We worked together, you know, I was just the rank apprentice, and I worked from August until October. And I had progressed to the point where he thought I could cut a gun. And so I did. And so I engraved the first gun I did in October of 1979. The second gun that I engraved was for a Texas Ranger. And I was 17 years old. And I'll tell you something, when you're 17 and you have the kind of respect that I had for the Rangers, I thought, you know, if I screw this up, this guy's either going to kill me or I'll be in prison for the rest of my life if I make a mistake on this. And so there was a lot of, shall we say, pucker factor involved. But I survived. The fellow liked it, and I had the opportunity to meet with him about 30 years later, and he still loved his gun, which was a great honor for me. If there was a time I could pick to live in for engraving, I think it would have been initially from 1850 to about 1920, and I would have gone to work for Colt Firearms and been a factory engraver, or like L.D. Nimschke was, a freelance contractor. And much of my work is based on inspiration by Nimschke. I don't copy anyone directly, but I take a lot of inspiration from his work, especially in my American style scroll. I think in my mind, God gives us all different gifts. We're not all the same. We're not created the same. And so when you find out where your area of giftedness is and you begin to work in that, it's more of a joy. It's not like work. It's what you're made to do. And for me, being artistic and creating these things is what I'm gifted in. There was something about when I picked up that hammer and chisel and I started doing this work, and I could see those cuts, as ragged and ugly as they were to begin with. There was just something fascinating about making that metal cut out of there and cutting these designs in that made me want to get better at it. A person has to make that tool do that work. And so that hand touch is there every time. And you see the touch of the artist in the work. We get bombarded on social media and places that we go with just stuff and just more stuff, and everything's disposable. And so when you encounter somebody who creates something by hand or takes the time to make it by hand, it makes a thing really special, whether it's something that's engraved or a piece of furniture or a musical instrument. When somebody takes the time and the effort to learn their craft, it's something that brings a great deal of satisfaction. I do it because I can. I have the awesome opportunity to do something I love to do. And even though at times I get tired and it may be tough to keep going, there's still that inner satisfaction of knowing that this is what I'm meant for. And I think so many times we see guys that hit midlife, somewhere around my age, and they flip out, they get a divorce, get a sports car, and a blonde, and their life goes haywire. And part of that, I think, comes from they've been trapped in something for so long that wasn't what they were meant to do, and it just kind of explodes. Like I said, a rich musical family heritage, but you got to go with Dad when he went to Nashville, or Time Life when they were doing the series on Hank Williams, and there's his picture on the wall.
Hank, Minnie Pearl,
Minnie Pearl,
15 Cowboys,
and he said then you realize kind of that he was
who he was, and it kind of all sunk
in context, I guess, and that
kind
you've inherited a lot of that, but you're not wasting it. You're using it in your songwriting skills and your performance skills, and it's a really a fantastic thing to see you moving in that
Just
direction.
kind of growing up around, you know, all the history and stuff, it just takes a little while for it to sink in. I grew up hearing him singing all of those old songs, you know, and, you know, Kansas City Blues, which is the first song that he got me to sing on with, which is how I got singing, was he made me do it.
Yeah.
He wanted me to sing backup for him.
Right.
And I told him, I think I need voice lessons. He said, damn it, you don't need voice lessons. You need to just roar back and sing. I thought, okay, well, all right, I'll give it my best shot. In my dreams, the only place a love could ever be.
He left a big shadow to, some big shoes to fill, castle on shadow, however you want to put it.
Right.
And,
But
in a couple of areas. And,
yeah, more than one. So that's just kind of who he was. And so that legacy, you know, is living on not only through you and engraving, but now through me and music as well.
If you want to get good at something, if you want to get good at something, I would encourage you, apply yourself. And the only thing stopping you from greatness is you. If you believe in yourself, if you will allow yourself to believe in yourself and keep at it, you know what? You're going to get there. But if you have a defeatist attitude and you think, I'll never do that, you know what? You're right. You never will. Believe in yourself and don't quit, and you'll achieve it. The end.